Welcome to Dr. Roger and Friends, the bright side of longevity, hosted by three Ps in a podcast, Doc Roger, Teresa, and Danielle. Thanks for joining us for coffee and conversation.
Well, welcome. Bright side of longevity. I'm Dr. Roger, and these are my two esteemed colleagues, Teresa and Danielle.
Feeling so esteemed today.
You're very esteemed. I choose my company because, it makes me look good if I'm in the right company, That's why I married my wife. That's why I have you for colleagues. That's why in the military, I put very smart people around me because,
you married especially well.
Yeah, I like to think I did.
You did.
It's only been 52 years, so I'm not sure if it's going to work. Yeah, of course, it's going to work out. Well, so nutrition, right? We did our first episode on this particular topic was not that long ago, and to recap, it's pretty simple when it really comes down to it. Humans have eaten in general, a type of diet for 99% of the time we've been on Earth, and it is reasonable to assume that our physiology and our ability to perform is probably at its maximum when we're eating that type of diet. And we know that the closest thing we have to a named diet, to what our hunter-gatherer ancestors ate, is the Mediterranean diet: fruits, nuts, vegetables, wild grains, fish, and small amounts of meat. And so that's a good barometer, a good gauge for probably the best you can do. And you know what? We've said this before, haven't we? That if you're physically active, and our other podcasts, we talk about that, and eat mostly this type of diet, you're probably not going to have to worry about weight, will you? It's certainly not the obesity and significant overweight that we see. Because those two things together, a proper diet with good nutrition and physical activity, hey, it's magic. Nutrition versus diet. Who wants to jump in on that one?
Nutrition versus diet. Well, to me, my first thought would be it's a lifestyle. Anytime I know somebody who goes on a diet, it lasts about 2-3 months. They lose a ton of weight. And they say how great they feel. And then 6 months later, they're exactly where they started. So I think nutrition is a lifestyle.
The diet industry has failed us. Absolutely. Failure after failure. And if we just think of food as nutrition, as fuel, right, then we stop using food as a numbing agent for difficult emotions. That's, I think, more what we're talking about.
Yeah, we're just like machines. We're just organic machines. And like our cars, we need the proper fuel to run. If we put the wrong fuel in, we're not going to run well or not run at all. And if we put the right fuel in, we can go, we can perform. It seems like an intuitive, basic thing, but especially in our country, the whole process of eating has been kidnapped by the whole concept of weight, because we do have a problem with weight, because of the amount of calories we consume, all the things we talked about on our last episode. So this is about nutrition, folks. This is about health. This is about performance. This isn't about losing weight. Although, if you listen, as I said, you're probably not going to have the problems with weight if you just pay attention to what you put in your body, so that it's the best that it can be. It's for your health and your performance. So I remember one time I was in the military, and we were performing a lot. We were on exercises, and we had big packs, and I packed light, and I didn't think I needed all that much food. And especially, I didn't think we needed all that much water.
Oh, boy.
Did I ever learn a lesson? Hydration. Shall we talk about hydration as a principle?
Absolutely. So why it's important, when you're thirsty, you're already 1% dehydrated. So basically, the thing that I find interesting is the earth is 70% water. Well, guess what? So our bodies are roughly 70% water. So you need it because water supports everything in your body as far as cushioning and lubricating joints, regulating your body temperature, normalizing your blood pressure. Even when you have muscle cramps, it could be dehydration. So we need to make sure that we're getting enough. People who are fatigued or have a lot of headaches, a lot of times they're dehydrated. So the old thought was that we needed an average of 7 to 8 cups of water per day. But that was assuming, too, that we're getting 20% of it through fruits and vegetables. So we're getting some of our water consumption through the foods we eat. The new recommendation is 11.5 cups of water per day for women and about 15.5 cups for men. And again, that's assuming that 20% of that is going to come through the foods that we eat.
So I'm in Sedona now. It's warm. I'm hiking. I need more than when I was at Cape Cod, where it was cold. Although sometimes in winter at high altitudes, the air is dry. And as you breathe in air, you lose fluid. So, this is really, really basic. I mean, you can die from dehydration, and thirst is not a good barometer. And another thing, we're not talking just any fluids here, like beer, coffee. These things are diuretics and therefore deplete your water resources and make you more dehydrated. So we're talking water-based thing.
But to your point, Roger, if you're out in Sedona and you're hiking, you're going to need more than on a cold day when you're curled up with a book sitting on the couch.
Yeah. Low humidity, high heat, perspiration, all change the equation as far as what you need. But absolutely every day, even though you may not be thirsty, this is something you should pay attention to. And a lot of times some of the fatigue we feel, or as you mentioned, headaches and things, Danielle, you can get some significant symptoms. So that's a big one. So we're talking about our hunter-gatherer ancestors and Mediterranean diet. We're talking about hydration here. We're talking about nutrition versus diet. Before we go any further, I want to say one thing. We all believe this, right? Life isn't worth living without chocolate. Now, we say
Absolutely.
that, we say that in order to, that's true, but it's also a sort of a metaphor for how the three of us, and I believe most of the rational people who deal with nutrition, nutritional advice, that there's a balance. This doesn't have to be zealotry. This doesn't have to be eating just bark for your life to be healthy, or things you don't like. It doesn't have to be that way. And life, where we've been given taste, and that it really makes life worthwhile. It's a wonderful thing. And so a little bit of wiggle room is what we're talking about.
Yeah, make it enjoyable. You said, you have the little treat, the little bit of chocolate, but also, for me, I happen to love food, and to eat healthy, I had to make it enjoyable by finding recipes and flavors. And you actually come to find out that eating healthfully is delicious. I mean, you'll find what in talking to people that I know who've made changes, they said, I stopped putting salt on everything, and now I'm noticing flavors I didn't notice before.
That's so true.
Salad. Somebody said to me, I didn't know romaine lettuce was so flavorful.
Yeah.
So
true.
So true. I thought certain vegetables, I'm a vegetarian. Well, not a pescatarian. I eat fish. So, but there's certain vegetables that are just awful. I just do not like to eat them. But Paula works her magic, and all of a sudden I'm eating it. What is this? This is so good. Well, that's the one you don't like, Mm-hmm. So you're right. No, a little effort.
I hope Paula listens to this, because now we've mentioned her twice.
I said, Paula and I have a lot in common, because it took 6 months where I would sneak vegetables and season them a different way. And then John's like, wow, I didn't think I liked this vegetable, but I like it in this combination. So yes, for those of us who cook, we get sneaky.
Well, I think you have to, it's certainly eating is pleasurable, but if you only go for the pleasure, you're going to be drawn to foods that are, and we'll talk about this in a minute, processed, calorie rich, fat rich, sugar rich, and that would be a natural thing to do, and but get you into trouble. You really have to be on alert because in many ways our food system has been kidnapped. That we have lost control of our food source, and I think that there's a very strong movement underway, farm to table, growing your own, and becoming more sure of where the source came from. So let's talk processed versus unprocessed.
Yeah, you might think you're eating healthy if you have a can of beans because you're like, well, beans are healthy. But anything that's canned or packaged often comes with high amounts of sodium, high amounts of sugar, increased fat content, all to give it better flavor. So it's got a great flavor, but it's not necessarily good for you. So the purer you can eat, the better.
So, someone once told me, if you want to keep it simple and understand it, anything that comes in a package is processed. You both are nodding. Is there any other guidance for what's processed versus unprocessed? Would means it's quotes pure. It's the same as it was from its source, and things haven't been added to preserve it, or to season it, that sort of thing. And we want to keep away from processed food, don't we? As much as possible. We can't live today without processed food.
Exactly. There are times where you need to have something, and you're short on time, or in my case, if I'm having something that's like a vegan product, it is going to be a little bit processed. My Impossible burgers on occasion. So you can't avoid it entirely, but just be aware of it. That shouldn't be your primary diet. Your primary diet. I know many plant-based people who follow like the Blue Zones are 90% plant-based.
No, and we're going to kites in this, aren't we? I mean, if we've all been eating a certain diet, we don't expect anyone, and because it wouldn't last. As with anything, if we take on too much, we will fail. And so, if indeed we want to increase our the plant-based portion of our diet, we do it in steps and do it with cooking trickery, but in small steps, because a total change of your diet in a short time that's unrealistic.
I learned from my cats. If you change the diet of your cat, you don't do it overnight. You do it over the course of several months because it upsets their digestive system. Humans are the same way. When I wanted to change, I did it over the course of a year, like slowly making changes. Because if you go hardcore all at once, there are a few people that do it, but for most people, you're just going to get frustrated and you're not going to feel well and think, hey, this isn't working for me.
So I think we've given there's sort of basic, high level, but very core principles, very important whenever you think about this whole topic of nutrition. Teresa, I know you have some more things you want to add here to what we've been talking about.
I do. Just a thought about processed food, and partly learned this in your book, Roger, that it really hasn't been around very long. If you think about human history, and as long as processed food has been around, our health has really tanked during that same time for that and other reasons, no doubt. But it's just we talk about the victory gardens of the past, and wouldn't that be such a wonderful solution, just to walk outside and pick from the garden?
In my lifetime, Teresa, I remember the first can of food. I mean, this was, first of all, a major grocery store. I remember the first grocery store opened in our town, which is a big town. And then they had the first thing, they had canned goods. And look, I'm old, but it's not all that old compared to how long we've been on Earth. So that and even in my lifetime, you made me remember.
Wow. And that was in Worcester, right?
Yeah, Worcester. You say Worcester, Worcester, Massachusetts. Worcester, where Harvard is.
I know I don't say it right, and I don't even try. Yeah.
What else you have, Teresa?
Well, just a thought about eating nutritiously. First question is why. If you want to eat more nutritiously, why? And make a list of why. Some of my favorites are, I don't know about you guys, but when I eat nutritiously, I sleep better. It's almost 100. I can almost 100% say that that's true. Most of us feel more energy when we eat nutritiously. Eat the foods that work for you, right? We often feel better, like in a GI way. There's less bloat. We just feel better inside of our bodies, and for many of us, when we eat well, we have more mobility. Like we can move throughout our lives better, and we're just more comfortable in our body. Notice I didn't mention the scalar weight loss, but those are the things you literally feel today when you fuel your body nutritiously today. So it's important to know your reasons why. And if you want to lose weight, fine, but also notice those immediate wins that you get. And to Roger's point about chocolate, it can be there too. I would recommend make a plan for what you're going to eat today. Stick to the plan. If you need a little treat or you want to choose to have a little treat, add it to the plan and then just follow the plan, right? And then you can redirect all of your other mental energy and focus it on something else. There's no arguing about, oh, but I really want this, or I'm really bored, so I feel like eating that. No, there's no negotiation in the day. Make a plan, follow the plan, and then go obsess over something else that's fun to obsess over.
And if you fall off the chocolate wagon, forget all the guilt trip and don't give it up. Just start over like Kytson, and you can do it.
Dark chocolate, right? There's health benefits.
And one thing, we talk about it with the blue zones, eat till you're 80% full. Well, if you eat more slowly and you eat that chocolate slowly, your body will, your blood sugar changes, right? If you eat the whole candy bar, your blood sugar shoots up. You eat a little bit, and if you eat slowly, your body will still get that same joy, but you're not going to necessarily crave the whole bar, because you've got that sugar spike. But people don't wait for the spike, or people eat until they're 100% full and then they wonder why they feel so bad after. It's like, eat slowly.
Yeah. And if you're really mindful about eating, say a treat, something indulgent, literally the best bite is probably the first bite, and the enjoyment does decrease, right, with the second bite. And is that all you need? And after that, are you just eating mindlessly for the right why?
Yeah.
And you mentioned it earlier, Teresa. This is such an important topic of food as a comfort. In these times of stress and pandemics and all that we've done with the world and how we rush around and things, it's a very, very stressful world. And we this is a whole nother topic. It has to do with meditation, mindfulness, doing things that you love to do. But to want to treat your stress or your stress is probably the best way, but any discomfort that you're having in your life, emotionally, psychologically, it's natural. Food does that for you. Not really. It feels like it does it, but in the end, it doesn't do very much at all, except create more problems. Or television or alcohol or all of those things, very easy to do. So being mindful about those things, again, whole nother topic. We've done them before and we will. But relative to food, yes, be mindful of what you're eating and why you're eating it. I like that, Teresa.
Yes, I love the question. If you're reaching for a treat to numb some difficult emotion, ask yourself, what am I not willing to feel right now? Such a good question.
Masterpiece provides communities with personalized content that keeps residents engaged and focused on their unique pathway to healthy longevity, no matter the circumstance or external influence. Powered by Masterpiece provides communities with the data and research needed to drive both the resident and community forward. Learn more at mymasterpieceliving.com.
So Danielle, whenever we talk nutrition, we hear things about, proteins and vitamins and minerals and carbohydrates, and our head starts to spin. And and labels on food, which we'll talk about in future episodes to break that down because that's important. So can you give us a primer on this? Not in any great detail because that'll come later. But what is all this? I mean, food is food, isn't it?
Well, you need a balance of all the proper foods. A lot of people are not getting enough protein. Protein in your diet helps your body repair cells and make new ones. So you need to be getting it through, whether you get it through meat, fish, soy products, nuts. You can get it from a variety of sources, but making sure that you're getting enough protein.
So, Roger, you mentioned being a pescatarian and that you eat fish. I always call myself a flexitarian. I eat meat and fish maybe once a week. Very limited dairy products anymore. And I'm moving more toward plant-based. That said, we all need a certain amount of protein in our diet. Women on average need about 46 grams of protein a day. Men need closer to 56 grams. And it can come from a variety of sources.
But making sure that you're getting enough protein. Vitamins and minerals. We have 13 vitamins that we need in our bodies. Some our body naturally stores. Some we can only get from food, or vitamin D we get from spending 10 minutes outside in the sun. So if we're eating a balanced diet, there's a good chance we're getting them, but variety. If you're eating all the same foods, you might find that you're deficient in something without knowing it. We need 17 minerals. Most are deficient in 10. And again, all of these are for your entire body functioning, for your immune system. So I would say protein, vitamins, minerals. And I would think the key point that I drive home is whatever diet, you can be an unhealthy vegetarian if all you're eating is processed foods. So whatever changes you make, Teresa mentions noting how you feel on the day to day. And I would say, check with your doctor. Roger, you say in Live Long, Die Short about lowering your risks. Well, check in because your blood work is going to tell you, if you're low on protein, if you're low on iron, if you're low on zinc. So get the reports and make sure that you ask the questions to your doctor. And for me, if I don't know something, I'm Googling whatever I see in the lab. What does this mean? Just to know if you're on the right track.
Terrific. Sometimes we lose sight of the fact that all these things that we take into our food aren't just for pleasure, and calories. They are part of rebuilding injuries that we have. We replace our cells at a certain rate all the time. And so when we're replacing those cells, we need the basic building blocks of those cells. And things like vitamins in particular, but also the food, that's part of the metabolic processes that allow us to stay alive, keeps our heart going, keep our muscles moving and strong, keeps our bones strong. And so if we neglect any of those, as our body ages, and I don't mean long time, sometimes weeks. The astronauts came back, and this was mostly due to physical activity, but their bones had lost calcium because they weren't using them. But that can happen if you're not given the proper nutrients for strong bones, strong muscles, and then, as we said, performance in general. Food is our fuel, as Teresa said, right out of the chute here. And without it, and not only the fuel, but also the building blocks.
And it's quick, so when Teresa mentions the day to day on how you're feeling, like if I feel bad a particular day, my first thing is, what did I eat the night before? Did I get enough sleep? Like I'm weighing in, but also in a short period of time, you can do a whole overhaul. I had a client who made minimal changes. They had blood work. The triglycerides were through the roof. The good cholesterol was bad and the bad cholesterol was too high. And within 6 months, everything went back into the normal range. And it wasn't huge changes. Cut a little here, add a little here.
Kaizen, the way to go. I think that's exactly right. And you build on those. I got to put in a word for carbs. Carbs have got such a bad rap. And that's Carbohydrates are a critical component of this whole process of our nutrition. In fact, when it really comes down to it, the only fuel that our body actually burns are carbohydrates. So we convert proteins and other foods into carbohydrates because that's the fuel our body uses. So we use meat and need meat and all that, but carbs are basic, and so certainly we have food now that's out there that's just loaded with it, and it's particularly attractive taste wise, and loaded with sugar, which I think that should be our last point, sugar. And this is a problem. We need them, but smart ones. Fruits, have great carbohydrates. And they haven't been altered for the most part, usually, and that's a good source. But carbs are not the enemy. Carbs are an essential point. But sugar is a carbohydrate. What about sugar?
The only thing I'll say about sugar is just naturally occurring sugar is the way to go. Adding processed stuff, and usually you don't have to add. That's about all I have to say about that.
Well, to your point earlier, Danielle, the more nutritious, healthy food you eat, the more your taste buds adjust and really appreciate that kind of food. And sugar is just takes away our ability to appreciate like really nutritious foods. I've definitely cut it out of my life little by little over the years. I even make jams and jellies now with no sugar or low sugar, and you can actually taste the fruit. It's so mumuch better.
Would you send me that recipe, Teresa?
I'll send you a jar.
Yeah. Well, and because as you know, I make grape from a small vineyard, a vine really, and I'd like to do that. Sugar, unfortunately, when we talked about our food having been kidnapped, it's something that increases the taste, and therefore it unfortunately is being put in so many things. Refined sugar. These are the complex sugars. The simple sugars are in the fruit. That's great. That's what we want. The complex ones are what we've processed, so to speak. And I have heard nutritionists say that sugar is poison to our system. It is.
Poison and addictive.
And addictive, yes. And that's why we have so much diabetes, particularly mature onset diabetes, not the one people are born with, that's about your pancreas, but it upsets our whole metabolism so much that indeed people suffer from diabetes and on all the difficult chronic medical things that they get with that.
What about raw sugar? If you're going to use like a cane sugar versus like I have my turmeric reishi mushroom tea and I added just a tiny bit of raw sugar for flavor. Is that bad, or is it only can come because it's a natural source versus like a stevia?
Yeah, it's raw and it's closer to the sugar cane plant, but it is still processed, although in a relatively small. So it's better than refined sugar, the white stuff and other things added to the food, but in moderation, absolutely. But it is closer to natural. It's not fruit like or taking a bite of a sugar cane. But it's closer. So I use it when I use sugar. Paula uses it in Paula has been mentioned 3 or 4 times. She's going to love it in her coffee. So yes.
Oh, honey. I was going to say my last thing was honey. So just we could do a whole thing on just sugars.
I think Teresa was with our meeting we had once. We called them lyceums in Masterpiece Living when Masterpiece Living was having these meetings. And I remember we had a time where a nutritionist gave us 10 sweeteners that we would all taste. Some artificial, some refined sugar, raw sugar. And you know which one won for the taste and everything in the vote? And as it turns out, was probably among the healthiest, honey. Well, I think, I hope that was our design, that this be a significant addition to the first one that we did. It's not the whole story, but it is our intent to not scare you away. It's just our intent to not confuse you. It's our intent that you begin to see the whole process of eating as something that is very pleasurable, yes, but absolutely necessary for your health, and one that deserves some discrimination, and namely being mindful about what actually mindful when you're eating it, but mindful about what you choose to eat, making plans. Again, hydration, the mix. We're going to build on all of this. And so there's more to come. I hope we haven't scared you away at all. It wasn't our intent. We want to kites in this. And it was very important that you got all the core concepts. And I think we're ready to go to the next step, which will be drilling down a little bit more into managing your intake and choosing wisely. And we'll eventually have some dietitian in here to help us in future episodes. So stay with us. Eating is a pleasure, and eating is health.
You've been listening to Dr. Roger and Friends, The Bright Side of Longevity. If you like the show, please rate and review, and be sure to click to follow.